Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to cover practical experience in Italy. It's one of the most common things that I hear all the time and see all the time, being like, oh, Italy doesn't give you any clinical hours, there's no such thing as practical experience in Italy, or it's like incredibly limited. And today I'm going to tell you that it's kind of bullshit. So I'm going to cover the brutal truth behind it, the advantages of it, the disadvantages of it, and how you're going to fix it. So basically, where are you going to find the opportunities to make up for the supposed lack of practical experience in Italy? Two things before we get started. The first one is that I really recommend that you follow our newsletter or follow us on Instagram, or at least turn on your bell icon so that you don't miss out any of these things. I have been getting comments being like, oh, you should make a video on this, when we already have a video on that. And the second thing is actually a disclaimer. So everything I talk about in this video is going to be particularly referring to Sapienza. So when I'm talking about like the stories and the examples of people that I know in real life, they're all going to be referring to Sapienza, but I have interviewed a student from every single university, and every single one of them have said something similar. So I am 99.99% confident that anything I say in this video can apply to any of the medical schools, but I would just like to say that I am in particular, for all of the examples, talking about Sapienza University. So let's start with the brutal truth, and the brutal truth is that no one is going to hold your hand here. Nothing is spoon-fed to you here. No one is going to, schedule all your things for you and show you this whole new world and, hand everything to you. That's not going to happen here. Here, everything that you want to do, like as an extra to your already practical activities, needs to be pursued by you. And this kind of sucks, and I can see like people are going to be like, oh, that's unfair and it should be this and it should be that. Sure, but it's not going to be. So the truth is that there is an abundance of practical activity. There are so many opportunities for clinical experience, for publishing papers, for anything that you can imagine here. Like, you are not locked out of any of it. You can find more than enough if you want to. The problem is that you really have to want to. So again, most of the time, practical experience kind of starts in second year. Some universities might send you into the hospital 1 or 2 days a semester in first year. But generally, your real practical experience isn't really going to start until fourth year. Now, in fourth, fifth, and sixth, you are going to regularly go to the hospital, starting from once a week to every single day. But I'm going to go through some examples of students that I personally know that this is the case for. One of them basically lives in the surgical department. She is in there every single day. She is always telling us about how much responsibility she has and how she's actually treated as one of the residents. And she goes in there and she talks to patients, and she follows the doctors around there, and she literally basically has been living there for the last year. I have another friend who is closing sutures in every single surgery he goes into. I think if I remember correctly, he's with the plastics department, and every single surgery he goes into, they make him close up every single surgery as a medical student. And I think he started this also when we were in fourth year. Another classmate I have is going into the neurophysiology lab and conducting research with them. So she goes in 2 or 3 hours every single morning, and she's actually doing research in Sapienza's neurophysiology lab. This is an incredible opportunity. And one other friend that I have has published multiple papers. She is an actual published author now. She's currently in 6th year, and she has actual research papers under her name because she went to the department that she's writing her thesis in and went in for additional hours and did additional things and helped additional people and talked to the professor a lot, and now she has multiple papers under her name. All of these students, nothing was handed to them. They just went in, they asked, could they volunteer, could they follow, could they do this, and they were super proactive about it. They learned Italian. They spoke Italian with all of their professors, with all of their patients. They demonstrated that they could do more and that they wanted to do more. And look at all of these incredible opportunities that they have been given. Being able to publish papers, being able to do so much surgical activity. This might not seem like a big deal, but it's kind of a big deal. And this whole myth of, oh, you don't get to do anything in Italy, that's a lie. You don't get to do anything in Italy if you don't go searching for these opportunities. That's much is true. Now, I'm not saying that this is a good system. I'm just saying that this lie that, oh, you don't get to do anything clinical, that's that's completely wrong. Even myself, I decided that this year I was going to try out a lot of different departments, and I just write to the professor and I just show up, and that was it. It was so much easier, and I actually learned so much just from being there a few days. And don't get me wrong, I have been to the hospital as a part of my class activities where we were going in once a week. And then, before COVID hit, we were going in basically every day and we had to do all of these practical experiences. And that was fine, but it was kind of different when you go in unscheduled because you're going in as an actual, not as an actual doctor, but it's different going in as a student for like learning activities versus when you're going in to follow the residents and the professor around. It gives you a lot more accurate representation of what the department will be like. The other thing is also, now this is going to sound a bit of a roundabout way, but so I got the incredible opportunity to learn a very advanced, like practical skill sets. And the only reason why I actually learned this is because I volunteered to help out with this project where we're recording like skills in the skill lab. We have like the state-of-the-art skill lab, and they wanted to record like instructional videos. And since I have like, YouTube experience and I have the camera, they asked me to join. And when we were recording these videos, if we had any downtime, the professor was like, oh, do you want to learn this like really advanced intubation technique that you don't usually learn as a medical student? And this has like evolved into now a group of students learning these really advanced skills that are going to be teaching other students. Like, again, this is kind of like a really roundabout way, but I got an incredible amount of practical experience and like these really advanced skills that seem so random, but it's just literally just because I volunteered to help out with this project with a professor. Like no one said, oh, we'll like pay you for this, blah, blah, blah. They were just like, oh, we're trying to do the skill lab thing. Do you want to like check it out? And I was like, sure. And I volunteered. And now like well, to be honest, I forgot most of it now because I haven't practiced it in a while. But like, there are so many opportunities like this, like for the skill labs and research papers and going to departments and doing suchers and doing, all of this research. There are so many opportunities. But again, like you have to seek it out yourself. No one is going to spoon feed it to you. And this might seem unfair, but that's just the reality of the situation, I'm afraid. Italy is not the country that you want to come into and expect someone to like pat you on the back and tell you everything's going to be okay and they're like going to bring you through this like really beautiful journey. It's not. Here, a lot of things, for the better or for the worse, are very dependent on your initiative and how proactive you want to be and how much extra time you want to put in, how much of your Italian do you want to improve? Because the truth is, like, a lot of it is also locked behind how much Italian you're going to learn. If you know really, really good Italian, you can start going to the hospital way earlier and you can talk to patients and ask professors and, so it's unfortunate, but it kind of depends on you. So in this unfair system, let's talk about why this is actually an advantage. Let's talk why this Italian system is kind of advantageous. The first one is being more theory heavy means that you're going to have a way better foundation in things. And sure, you can argue that maybe it should be a bit more balanced, but the truth is you can kind of learn any practical skill in basically one day. But the foundation and the theory of that practical skill, you can't actually just learn in one day, right? Because if you think about it, you are cramming so much information into you for 6 years and you're like learning so much knowledge and so much theory and everything for 6 years that when you finally go and do your residency, when you are shown the practical things, sure, you're not going to know it, but you're going to learn it in a few days. Whereas any of the other doctors that are there that didn't have as heavy of a theory system, they're not going to be able to know everything that you know in a few days. And yes, again, we can always argue that it should be more balanced, but the truth is, you think something is a really big deal until you do it. Like, I know someone who said that they were like so freaked out about the fact that they didn't know how to take blood. Like, they went to the UK, they're a graduate of the IMS course in Sapienza. They went to the UK and they didn't know how to take blood. And the nurses sat her down. She learned how to take blood in like one day. She had to do like 20 patients. And the day after, she was like, wow, that was really not a big deal. And it was really boring. And she is like acing her foundation years because she has such good theoretical knowledge from the foundation she built up from being in such a theory heavy system. I'm not saying it's ideal. I'm not saying it's the best, but I'm just saying that people need to let go of this idea that like, if you don't know all of if you don't know all the practical experience and you don't have all these practical skills, it's going to be the end of the world. It's not. You're going to learn them within a few days and you're going to realize it's not that big of a deal. It is a big of a deal when you're in medical school, but honestly, once you actually graduate and once you actually start doing those skills, yeah, you're going to see that like, actually, yeah, it was fine. it wasn't that big of a deal. Having no forced practicals, other than your few scheduled days or whatever, means that you can really focus down on what you want to learn, right? Again, I gave this example in another video, but if I know that I want to do cardio, I know I do not want to do cardio, but if I know I want to do cardio and I'm never going to consider anything else, I don't really need to go into OB-GYN for 2 months. I don't need to go and do neuro for 2 months. And sure, we should create like somewhat balanced doctors. But again, because the theory is so heavy to pass these classes, it's not like you're going to be lacking any sort of like foundational knowledge from these subjects. You're still going to have a very rounded out education. You might be lacking in the practicals in different departments, but if I know I want to do cardio, I don't really want to waste time in like ortho or neuro or OB-GYN, like things that aren't going to be really related to what I want to pursue a career in, where I'm not going to, I might be, not wasting time, but the more exposure I have to the cardio department, the more opportunities I have to network or write research papers or be a part of a case study or, see interesting cases in patients, which might help with an exam in the future, like in the standardized exams. So I think this can also be a huge advantage. The next one is seeking opportunities is actually a really good way to grow your skill set. Networking is a massively underrated skill that no one really teaches you how to do. The thing is, I think networking is the number one most undervalued skill that you can have as a doctor, because so many times, unlocking these research opportunities or seeing an interesting case study or going to this conference or getting to do a cool internship or finding the right consultation for this right thing it's all about networking. And I think one of the funnest things about being a doctor is that, you set up these lifelong relationships and friendships with doctors in every department all over the world. And, I think this is so exciting. And a lot of students don't take advantage of this and they never really learn how to network. And I think forcing you out of your comfort zone to go and, track down these professors or residents and getting them to teach you how to do things and, learn how to shadow and ask for things is a really good opportunity to actually teach you this skill set. How can you go and find these opportunities and how are you going to network? You're going to need to be able to sell your skills a bit better. What can you do for that department if they let you write your research paper there? What are you going to add to their team? And, this is going to help you with interviews. And I just think that this is a really undervalued skill that you're never going to be taught, but by forcing you to go out and forcing you to look for opportunities, this is a skill set that you're going to develop as a side effect. And the final advantage of this system is that it's going to force you to learn Italian. It really is, because if you want to actually go and have all of these practical experiences, you're going to need to speak Italian. If you want all these extracurricular, non-hospital organized stuff where you're going to have real interactions with real patients, you're going to need to learn Italian. And this is a huge advantage because I really do believe learning anything is so much easier when you have a motivation to learn it, right? And if your end goal is that I want to talk with patients, as a side effect, you're going to have to learn Italian, and learning Italian is going to make your life so much easier. You're going to make friends easier. You're going to sort out your bureaucratic processes easier. It's just going to make your life so much easier. And you have this extra motivation to go out and learn Italian and push yourself out of your comfort zone, maybe speaking to your friends or randomers, because you need to learn and practice Italian to be able to get to this practical experience, to get to the clinicals. Okay, let's quickly talk about the disadvantages, because I'm not delusional. I do realize that there are many disadvantages to the system. The first one being is that it's highly dependent on your mastery of Italian. Sure, there will be lots of opportunities for you, even if you don't speak a good level of Italian. But at the end of the day, the more Italian you know, the more it's going to unlock for you. And so, your mastery of Italian is kind of very crucial. And that is kind of a disadvantage, especially, if you're not dedicating enough time, or you have to work part-time, so you don't have enough time to dedicate to Italian. This is a bit unfair and it is a disadvantage. The other disadvantage that is, again, it kind of depends on you. If you're very introverted and, you're shy and you don't want to go and seek out these opportunities, it might be a lot harder for you. And I do recognize that. But again, networking is a skill and you kind of need to push past your comfort zone. Also, when you're speaking in Italian and other things. So yeah, it's kind of a disadvantage that it depends on you. Another one might be that you're kind of at the mercy of the generosity of the professors. Now, in my experience, I have never heard, okay, again, speaking only for Sapienza, I have never heard a negative outcome of a student going and pursuing and asking for research with a professor. Now, again, when I say asking for research, I don't mean that any department or any professor is just going to let you go out and publish papers in their department. But what I mean is like, I have never heard of a student asking a professor if they can come in and shadow and like look at the research that they do and learn more about the field and how it works and how does the department work. I've never heard of like a negative outcome of this. But it is like statistically likely or probable that you might get a not nice professor. Like you might, have very not nice professors, and that is the one department you want, but that professor is notorious and won't let you in for whatever reason. This is a huge disadvantage. Like if I really want to do cardio, but like the cardio professors are notorious for not liking any medical students, so they never let people into their departments, chances are if I ask, I'm going to get turned down. And this is a possibility. Like again, I have never heard of this happening, but it is not outside of the realm of possibility. And I realize that this is also a huge disadvantage. And the final reason why I think that it is a disadvantage is because your motivation to get through the 6 years becomes really dependent on you. Like I realized that this year when I started doing a lot more practical things, like it kind of, I don't know, burst this new motivation inside of me. I kind of finally saw the end goal. Like, especially through the pandemic, I was starting to get really demotivated. I love studying medicine, don't get me wrong. Like, I love the theory. I actually love the subjects we do. I think they're so interesting. But I was becoming very disillusioned with the fact that I don't know, yeah, medicine is like cool to study and all, but I don't know, there's so many other things I could have done, blah, blah, blah. And then when I started going into the hospital again and talking to the patients and seeing the doctors and getting to meet like so many different departments and seeing cases, I was like, oh my God, like I totally forgot, like this is what I'm going to get to do. Like in 6 years, when I graduate, like this is going to be what I'm doing every single day. And like it kind of ignited this passion to actually become a doctor again. Like I'm not saying that I didn't want to be a doctor anymore, but I would say that it became very hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel until I started, becoming proactive and doing all of these things again. It made me re-excited about being a doctor. I always loved studying medicine, but it really made me feel excited again to graduate. And I know that sounds really weird, but yeah, and the only reason why that happened is because I went out of my way to when I went out of my way, I mean I sent an email to a professor asking if I can come in and see the department. And when I started doing this, it really reignited it. And I think this can be a really big disadvantage, because if I hadn't decided that I was going to go out and try these new opportunities, maybe I would have just graduated and been like, oh, you know what, maybe I don't want to do a residency. Maybe I'm going to stay in academia. And, this would have been a shame, because I wouldn't have given myself the full opportunity. Because again, the few days we did go into the hospital, when we were going in every day and we were learning the different skills, it was still kind of a class activity. Sure, we were in smaller groups and we were actually in the department and seeing patients and learning the skills, but it really didn't feel like the exciting, walking around and actual, it didn't feel as real of a simulation, I will say. And I recognize that this can be a huge disadvantage. Before we go on to the next part, where I'm going to tell you guys how we're going to fix the fact that there's not a lot of scheduled practical activities, I just want to also mention that it's actually not that important that you don't have so much practical experience. Now, I know after talking so long about the disadvantages, this sounds really, really counterintuitive or paradoxical, but it's kind of true. Practical experience, in my opinion, doesn't matter as much as having a very, very strong theoretical knowledge, because your theory, once you apply it, will always become practical. Right? All of the examples I gave before, but even now I'm currently in Turkey and I go into the hospital with my friend to do an internship. And even though I have never done any of these practical skills, if you ask me about the theory behind them, I'm able to answer all of the questions. And then once you do it once, that's it. It becomes cemented. And so I think that as long as you have a really strong theoretical foundation, it's not that big of a deal, because you are going to eventually learn these skills when you start in the hospital. And I think especially when you're in high school, a lot of people think oh, but if you don't know the skill before you go to the hospital, it's going to be a disaster. It's not really. It's not going to be that big of a deal, because if I don't know how to do this life-saving technique, it's not on me. There's a team of doctors. There's so many other people who would not give me this responsibility if they didn't know I could do it. It's not you're going to show up on your first day and they're going to be okay, now you have to do all of this on your own. And if you don't know it, then you're kind of fucked. That's not going to happen, You're just going to tell people okay, in my university, I never learned how to do this. And what they're going to do is they're going to take you aside and they're going to take the time to teach you. This is how it works, And I think before you actually graduate, you don't really realize that just because you don't know these practical skills doesn't mean you're not ever going to know them, or you're going to be in a situation where suddenly you need to use it because you're the only person there. No good hospital in the world leaves one person in responsible without even checking if that person that is responsible is able to carry out these skills. So I don't think it's like that big of a deal. And again, like most of the practical skills, other than like talking about like really like advanced life support stuff, they're kind of easy to learn. Like even if you don't know how to take blood or, you know, put in a catheter, you learn these over a few hours. Like doing sutures, that's like a day workshop in most places. These things, you will be surprised at how fast you learn them. And then once you learn them and do them a few times, they become so routine. There's actually an episode of Scrubs that like covers this really well, where JD, when he's first starting, he's like freaking out about having to put in an ID. And then after a few weeks, he's like listening to his headphones and it's like, oh yeah, like this is so boring and it's no big deal. Because that's kind of the truth. It just seems like a big deal when you've never got to do it and you're like really like enthusiastic about medicine, but then you realize that like actually it's really not that big of a deal and you're going to eventually learn the skills anyway. Okay, finally, I know this video is going on for very long, but let's talk about what things you can do to increase your surface area of practical experience or clinical experience or research or whatever you want to do. The first one is to just volunteer and be annoying. Just be super annoying. Go to your professors after class and be like, Professor, I really love this subject. I know we just started this, but I really think that I might see myself doing this in the future. Can I please come? Can I please shadow at your department? Can I please follow you around for an evening? Can I come and please see the labs and see what type of research you do? Be enthusiastic about it. Like, you know, that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. You know, write them emails. Just write the professors emails being like, hi professor, like I know I'm a new medical student, but I've always had a interest in this department, and I know I won't be able to do a lot, but I was really hoping that I could have the opportunity to shadow you around for like a day or two. You know, and then when you're there, ask lots of questions, like demonstrate your curiosity, try to show that you're learning and try to get yourself invited more, you know, keep asking them. You know, if your first shadowing goes really bad, just write them another email being like, hi professor, I really enjoyed my time the other day. I really didn't know enough things, but I've been studying all of the cases that came up and I would love another opportunity to go and follow you around this time now that I have more knowledge. You know, like I think you need to be very proactive about emailing professors and, you know, kind of just be annoying about it. Talk to them after class, talk to them before class, write them emails. And I actually had 2 of these opportunities. I've been to both the emergency department on the night shift and I've been into general surgery a few times and got to see like some really cool and gross cases of like foot necrosis and things like that, just because I just ask the professor if I can go in. Another thing is to go on Erasmus. So Erasmus is when you are paid to go to a different country to, do like a semester abroad. So it counts as official university time. You actually go to classes there and you go to the departments there, and it counts as like real learning time. So you do exams there as well instead of doing them in your home country. So you can go on Erasmus to a different country where maybe they're a lot more practical heavy and you can see like many things. So for example, if you know that you want to do obstetrics, for example, and you know that in our university we don't see that much practical experience for obstetrics, you can sign up to go to a country where maybe their obstetrics practical experience is very, very heavy, where you have to go in and see at least 20 live births to be able to pass the class. Right? So going abroad, going to Erasmus is an incredible opportunity if you want to increase your practical experience. Another one is to join associations like CISM. I wish I had known about this association earlier, but CISM and also IMFSA are like international medical associations, and you can go and do practical or research exchanges. For example, this year I'm going to Brazil for 1 full month to do a research project where I'm actually going to help them conduct the research, and I don't know how it will go, but if it goes well, I might even get my name on it, and I get to go abroad. Now the thing with CISM is that it doesn't really count as an official didactic activity, so you won't get credits for it, but it's something that you can still put on your CV. You can still go to another country and experience a new culture and still get to do like all of this practical experience. You might even get to be a part of research, and there are like associations like this that by joining you get, again, like more exposure to perhaps research or to practical activities. Another option is to email other hospitals in other countries just by yourself. For example, every time I come to Turkey, I usually write to a private hospital, or actually right now, even a public hospital has allowed me to do it. You just write to them saying that you're an international student, you're considering, moving to that country or something, the details aren't that important, but you just write to them asking if there are any opportunities for you to go in and shadow. Now, most of the time, if you're going in just for a shadowing opportunity, you don't even need to worry about having like liability insurance because you're not going to be doing anything practical. But again, like this increases your exposure. Like you just get exposed to so many more things you can see and so many more people that you can meet. You never know, like when you might meet some professor in some university who's then going to write you a recommendation letter who might then help you with getting into a residency there. You just never know what you're going to see and who you're going to meet. And again, it's just about being proactive. Like, I'm Irish, I live in Italy, but I'm still writing to private places in Turkey being like, hi, can I come? Hi, can I see this, please? Hi, I have an interest in this. And it's annoying, but like I've had so many incredible opportunities unlocked, and I've met so many more incredible people, and I've gotten to see so many things. And yeah, this is like kind of like my fourth and final tip. So email and ask your own professors. Email and ask hospitals in your own home country or in other countries. Join associations like CISM and go on Erasmus. Like, these are all things that are going to instantly improve your exposure to clinical stuff. So I hope this very long video finally puts the stupid argument to rest that, oh, you get no clinical exposure in Italy. You're not handed any clinical exposure in Italy, but there is an overabundance of opportunities if you want them. We are going to be doing other like survival guides / stuff for current medical students, not so much focusing on IMAT students, but if you want to stay tuned, again, I really recommend that you follow us on Instagram or you sign up to our newsletter.